You're watching the PoliticIt Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of PoliticIt Dixie. I am here with my friend, Councilwoman Michelle Tanner.
Hey.
And so excited to have her on as my very first guest in studio.
Yes.
And I actually think what's kind of fun about this is my first ever podcast, Mila came with me as like a brand new baby. She was like 2 weeks old.
Yes.
And how old is Maverick?
6 weeks. Yep. A little 6-week-old baby out there. Yep.
And we've got him along for the podcast today too,
Yes.
which is so fun. And so anyway, I love that we are moms and we've got our babies and they just go along with us.
I know. Little Maverick was with me at a full budget city council meeting yesterday, 9 to 5. He hung out in that meeting.
He was a total trooper.
Yes.
That is so impressive. That's a good baby too.
Yeah, he is really good.
I don't know that Mila would have been able to go along for that. So
Right.
All right. So let's talk about some of the races that are coming up. Maybe we start with like our county commission races.
Absolutely.
So we have really essentially 4 candidates for those 2 seats, right? 4 Republican candidates.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when we talked a little bit earlier. Let's talk about caucus. It was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
There were not very many people at our caucus
turnout,
meetings.
which considering nobody collected signatures in the county,
Right,
which we
right.
love,
Yes.
it will come down to the delegates
Right.
to decide if a candidate reaches that 70% threshold anyway at
Right.
convention, they could be our sole nominee. But if they don't
Right.
reach that 70%, then we'll have 2 candidates that go forward to the primary.
Right, which I actually think is a good thing. I mean, if you can't get 30%, right,
Then that's saying something.
you might not be a very strong candidate.
Right.
So I love that we didn't have anyone gather signatures, that this is going for Washington County. We're going to be convention only.
Yes.
And it is really important work for the delegates to vet these candidates and get to know the candidates. So
Yes.
let's talk about candidates. So
Yeah.
maybe which race do you want to talk about first?
Let's start with Seat A of the
Okay.
county convention, which is Gil Almquist is running for re-election for that seat, and Bill Hoster is running for that seat as well.
Okay.
And, I appreciate the things that Gil has done serving as he's been an elected official for a lot of years here locally between city
Mhm.
council and county commission. So I certainly appreciate that service.
Right.
I am a strong advocate for Bill Hoster because
No.
I have worked so closely with Bill over the last several years
Yeah.
on really important issues that are really important to Southern Utah.
Right.
And he's shown me that he is a freedom fighter. He is not afraid to step up and do the hard things and make the hard decisions, and comes from a background of being a Navy veteran, being a former paramedic, being a CEO of large corporations and running those companies efficiently, inventing medical products. So when he's seen an issue, he comes up with a solution, right? And has transitioned that into public service, where he volunteered as a mayor and the chair of the fire board.
Mhm.
So I love that he brings that experience, but also does not shy away from the fight, as we were talking about, like
Right.
Prop 4 earlier, right?
Yes, Bill was huge with Prop 4. There were really only just not even a handful of us down here who were trying to run this operation and make sure, and I actually am super proud of the work that we did. Washington County, I feel like we were the shining star of the state
Yes.
in terms of
You did such a good job.
we
That
crossed
was-
that finish line on the signature threshold first. And you notice that they went for a northern Utah county. They didn't bother trying to convince people in southern Utah to remove their signatures.
Right.
We noticed that they targeted northern Utah for a reason.
Yeah.
We had some pretty good padding in there for those signatures in Washington County that made it really hard for them to challenge our signatures. But that was a lot of work. I watched Bill, and we were on this group chat with all of us trying to coordinate. Okay, who's going to go pick up the packets? Okay, who's going to take them to the clerk's office? Okay, who's holding a signature event? And there were several signature events where I couldn't be there. And I was so grateful because every time I couldn't be there, Bill showed up.
Yeah.
He literally was like, I will be there. I will handle it. No big deal. And so it was really nice to feel like I wasn't trying to do this all on my own.
Yeah.
And Prop 4 it's so important. And obviously I've said a few things.
It's a big topic.
Obviously I'm very passionate about this.
No.
But it's so important that Bill even signed on as one of the people who launched this initiative.
Yes, on
to
the
repeal
actual
it.
lawsuit, which,
Yes.
I mean, that takes guts to actually put your name on legal documents
That's right.
that makes you personally accountable.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
It is. It's huge. And I remember in 2024 when Carrie Ann Lisenby first called me about this, I remember reaching out to you and Bill and others to sign on to this letter with a whole lot of other leaders in the GOP.
Yeah.
And I loved that you and Bill were so quick to support it, that you could see the harm that initiatives really have to good governance.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we were still just learning about it. That was all kind of new to us. But obviously, people have seen how this has played out, how at every turn, voters really don't have anyone that they can hold accountable. We can't hold judges accountable. We can't hold MWAG accountable. We have no way of having any recourse for these maps that the legislature did not choose.
Yes, which our Utah Constitution says that that's who should draw the maps. But,
Yes.
You know, not that we care about following the Constitution or anything,
And
apparently.
who needs that? So what I will say is I love that he's a freedom fighter. I love that he cares enough about good governance and us being able to uphold our constitutional republic in the state of Utah.
Absolutely.
I love that that mattered to him enough to put his name to it and then to see him do the work to help us get there.
Yeah.
That was really, really amazing. So, and I love Gil. They actually have both been amazing supporters of our club. They have, and Gil's big thing, I don't know a ton about the work that Gil does because it seems like we've worked with Bill on obviously
Protecting kids.
Yeah, on protecting kids. Bill, I think I have more political experience working with.
Yeah.
So what I think I do know about Gil is that he's been involved in the arts.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge thing here in Southern Utah. We have a lot of different arts groups and opportunities to support, and I know that he's been a huge supporter and that he's that's really where he has added value.
Yeah, definitely a niche for sure.
Yes.
For him. Yeah.
Yes. So, do we want to talk about our work protecting kids? Because that was another
because that's
big
what
thing.
you and I and Bill Hoster and of
Yes.
course Colin Jack and
Yes.
we've had actually a great group
Yes.
who's worked for the last several years now
Yes.
on legislation to keep adult entertainment with adults and not in front of kids in our public spaces.
Yes, and we've been working on that for 4 years.
Yeah,
but
it has been that long.
It's been a lot of meetings, and Bill has been really, really helpful and instrumental as we're going through policy and trying to figure out what the best policy is. Because even once you get good policy, it's how enforceable is that policy, and that was our uphill climb this year, was trying to create policy that was not only good policy, but then is enforceable.
Actually has consequences that are enforced.
Yes. And Bill he's been right with us all the way on protecting kids. And I remember even that very first year filming a video out at his house.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And discussing some of the things that we saw happening here in our community, and I just have really appreciated his work on that as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe the other race.
So there's Victor Iverson
Yes.
and Troy Belliston
Yes.
running as well. Victor
Is the incumbent.
Right. Has been, I want to say this is going on his third term, possibly fourth.
Okay.
Anyway, he's done a lot for the county. I actually really like that Victor is kind of just says it how it is. You know, he's not super
Yes.
polished all the time, which I actually personally appreciate
it. Yes, because it's honest.
Yeah.
Whatever comes out his mouth, if it's not polished, it is honest. He's going to tell you exactly where you stand and exactly what he thinks on an issue.
Yes, and I will say one thing I really appreciated that Victor led the charge in, and I know Adam Snow was right there with him as well when a year or so ago, when the legislator wanted to take our TRT funds
yes.
that we generate here in Southern Utah
Yes.
and use them for a Major League Baseball stadium?
Up in Salt Lake.
Are you kidding me? Not even in Southern Utah? Like, and talk about proper role of government. What are we even doing funding a Major League Baseball stadium anyway? And Victor and Adam both held our ground here in Southern Utah, and I appreciate the representation that they gave us with saying absolutely not, and they took a lot of heat for that.
They took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah.
Especially, I think it was hard. I think they were like, we're going to burn some bridges over this.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes that's important. Sometimes there's important enough issues that if bridges burn, I mean, you don't love to do that, but so be it if you're standing on true principle.
Yeah, you want your commissioners to be willing to go to bat for something that is going to have a huge impact in Southern Utah. You want them to go to bat. So I loved it. I know that they've had a hard time. I think some of our legislators, I think, had a hard time at the legislature after that too. Yeah. Because it was hard, all of the pushback on it. So that's been a challenge. But again, so grateful that we have people who are willing to
stand up and be a freedom fighter.
Yes. Even if that means that they have consequences afterwards. Yes. Which also, speaking of, I loved his willingness on Prop 4, since it's my favorite issue.
Are we circling back to that again? Always comes back to Prop 4.
Are we going to go back to Prop 4? But I loved what Victor did when he just said in the commission meeting, and I talked to him about this, and he said, he was like, I didn't actually think that was going to be blasted out all over social media.
Which I was like, yes.
I know. That was probably the best campaign video anybody could have made for him.
Absolutely. I have been loving, in fact, all of the by some of his more left-leaning opponents.
Yes.
They've been putting out these videos of him trying to damage him when I'm like, yes, they could not be campaigning better for him. They've become his best allies by showing that he's willing to step up and speak up for important issues.
Yes, and that's actually what I text him right when I said it. I'm like, this is the best you really owe them for making
really
this
hire
video.
these people.
But it was amazing, him just saying, like, look, this is not constitutional. Judge Gibson is out of her lane, and if she's going to be out of her lane, guess what? We're going to be out of ours, and we're not accepting this map here in Washington County, and we're going to vote it down.
Yes.
And again, and there were people who were like, well, I mean, what's it going to really do? The map's still going to go into effect, whatever, right? But it's the principle of it.
Yes, and being a voice, that's what made me so upset during COVID, and what got me into politics was, even though, okay, maybe here at the local level, we didn't have control over the CDC or, Fauci or some of the federal mandates, but we are a voice. Our local representatives still could have been a voice. And Victor was actually, during COVID, a voice. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of them, though. Right. And, that's what sometimes we need here is, even though we don't have full control, we can advocate for correct principles.
Right. And Washington County largely, if I'm remembering correctly, because I had a baby at the time, but I feel like we largely stayed open in comparison with the rest of the state.
Oh yeah, we were a lot better for sure.
Yes.
We still had, some mask mandates.
Yes. But I would forget sometimes that we were in the middle of COVID and then travel somewhere and be like, what's with all these crazy people wearing masks and standing on their little X's in the grocery store? I would just forget because...
Yes, let's never go back there.
Let's don't go back
there. The delusion. Oh.
Yes, but those are some really good, I feel like, leadership choices there. And I don't know a ton about Troy Belliston, other than I do know that he is on Washington City Council currently. And I'm supposed to be having lunch with him next week. So hopefully I can learn a little bit more about who he is as a candidate. Do you know much?
Well, similarly, I have worked with Victor a lot more than Troy. So I have not worked closely with Troy on very many issues. Yeah. So I have had great conversations with him and appreciate his service on Washington City Council. So I don't have anything negative to say. Right. I just have not had as much experience with Troy as I have with Victor.
Right. Yeah, that's me too. But one thing I will say is Washington County, we really have good people who are willing to serve here. And so I think that we're lucky because I know that that's not always true in other areas of the state. Sometimes everybody's looking around like, who do we get to serve? Who do we get to represent? And who do we get to challenge this person? In some areas, that's a real struggle. And I don't feel like we have as much of that struggle in Washington County. Yeah. So I appreciate anybody willing to throw their hat in. We have some great Republican candidates, and hopefully we'll get some good debates here going soon, which will be so fun. So let's talk about, let's go to a break, and we will come back and talk about the CD3 race when we get back.
That's a hot topic.
Yes, we'll have a quick break.
Tired of media bias? Frustrated by political noise? PoliticIt.com cuts through the clutter, giving you real facts, clear analysis, and unbiased insight on the issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay empowered. Whether it's elections, policy changes, or breaking news, we've got you covered. No spin, no agendas, just truth you can trust. Visit PoliticIt.com today, because informed citizens shape the future. PoliticIt.com, where politics meets clarity.
Hi, we are back from our break. I am your host, Alexis Ence with PoliticIt Dixie, and I'm back with my friend, Michelle Tanner, and we want to talk CD3
They just
race.
Changed it. We're CD3 now.
We're CD3 now. Gonna have to get used to it. Okay, so let's talk candidates, and I want to start with, obviously, my favorite issue is Prop 4 right now. So we're going to go back there. I'm sorry. People are going to be like, we're out. We're not watching PoliticIt Dixie. She talks way too much about Prop 4. But it's obviously been in all of our minds this week because we lost the signatures. Mm-hmm. We fell below that threshold to get it on November's ballot, and that was hard. And one thing that I think is super important for people to be taking a look at is, where are the candidates falling on this? With Prop 4, ultimately, I want a repeal. That's what I want. And I think that that's actually what the majority of voters wanted, which is why I feel like they did everything they could to make sure that this didn't go to the ballot. That's why they would spend $3 million in one Senate district to make sure this didn't go to the ballot. Right. So, but for those who supported it, and Celeste was huge. She was incredibly instrumental with supporting this. She had statements of support. She showed up at a signing event that I was holding at St. George Library to help us gather signatures. She launched this federal lawsuit to help. Like, we've got to rein this in. We really can't have judges then controlling the balance of Congress. Like, that's a scary thought. Yeah. And so we can't have judges drawing maps. We can't have judges taking the constitutionally assigned authority away from the legislature and handing it to a group of activists. I mean, they're the very bad actors that this bill was supposed to protect us from.
Yep. Talk about a gerrymandered map. It doesn't get more gerrymandered than what they put out.
Exactly. So this concept of being sold fair maps and better boundaries, that was never actually what it was about, and voters saw that. So obviously they don't want it on the ballot. But I appreciated Celeste's drive to support us in the effort and to put this on the ballot for voters. Even if you liked Prop 4, what would you have against voters deciding this? And so that was huge that she was so supportive of it. And then I say contrast that with her main opponent, Phil Lyman, who I don't know that I saw him.
He was pretty radio silent on the issue. I don't think he said a whole lot about the issue.
I don't think I saw him.
He was too busy probably talking about Spencer Cox, his obsession. I don't think he can make a post or a statement and not include Spencer Cox. Like, it's a serious obsession.
That's right. I can't wait for the point in this race where Celeste Malloy gets magically turned into Spencer Cox. and he runs against Spencer Cox for what, the third time? Oh, we saw that happen with Rob Axon, so I mean, I'm just, if we're going by the same playbook, we know it's coming.
Yes.
But also, the only thing that I saw him do was I saw him do a video, and in the video, he's like, "Here I am, I'm signing this petition, but I understand if you don't want to sign the petition." And I was like, "What kind of milquetoast? What?" Thanks for standing up for Utah voters getting to decide this at the ballot.
Right.
So I will say, in terms of leadership, I give that to Celeste on this.
Oh, yeah. And
she really came through for us.
Yeah.
Washington County, our signatures, we showed up strong. We talked about that.
Yes.
So I loved her for that.
Well, and really this race is a race between Celeste and Phil. There's a couple of others in the race, but nobody knows who they are. I mean, it's definitely going to come down to the two of them.
Right.
And this might be surprising for some people who have kind of watched my history and, you know, over the years with the Republican Party, because I actually initially, when Celeste first got elected, I was strongly for her opponent.
Right.
You know, and wasn't afraid to speak up and say so.
Right.
I will say, though, I will give credit where it's earned, because I have watched Celeste now over these last few years.
Everyone has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we always align 100% on her votes.
Right.
But, and I've told her this, she shows up.
She does.
That woman is a worker.
Yep.
She's not just talk, like she actually works. And I so appreciate and respect that.
Yes.
Because so many people go back there and they don't actually work, right? Like she actually puts in the work, cares about our district. I do see that and truly believe that is there. And she does have those leadership qualities. Yeah. So I really appreciate that about her.
She returns every one of my calls.
Yeah.
And quickly. It's not like she leaves me waiting. I never have to think, oh, I wonder what she's doing that she's not getting back to me. It's always that day, usually within the hour, she's getting back to me, which I just appreciate. Again, I haven't agreed with every vote, but she does. She shows up and she's willing to have the conversations. And in fact, my last phone call with her, she said, "Hey, I heard that you were worried about this vote. Like, tell me what you're thinking. What are your concerns?" And so she had even heard about my concern ahead of time. And before we talked about anything else, she's like, let's address this. Let's talk about what your concern is. And she was going to get back to me on some ways to improve it. So I love that she's willing to have the hard conversations. When you don't agree with one of her votes, and then she's willing to say, "Hey, yeah, there's room to improve this. Let's see what we can do, and I'll get back to you." Yeah. And so I love that. That's what you want in a representative. Yes. Right?
And she has a thick skin. This is important. She is not petty, and we see this all the time in politics, and Phil Lyman is actually a classic example of petty and not having a thick skin. I mean, there's multiple examples of that where I've seen Celeste, and it's like, you have to have a short memory in politics, right? And I've heard her even say that, where, you know, it's okay if, you know, I supported her opponent last time. She still works with me. She still talks to me. She still has those conversations. Whereas with Phil, it's the exact opposite. I supported his opponent for chair because he had better leadership characteristics and qualities to lead our party, Rob Axon.
Yes. He had a Trump endorsement.
And Phil was extremely petty. He, in fact, went so far to post text message conversations.
Yes, I remember that.
Me asking him why he was supporting an initiative that I didn't agree with. And it was in such a deceptive way. He posted it in a way to say that was why I didn't support him, which was totally false. I mean, I had a whole laundry list of reasons why I didn't support him, which is actually saying something, because I literally had a Lyman for Governor flag flying in my front yard before the primary. I strongly supported him for governor before the primary. However, the closer I started to work with him, I actually helped fundraise, for his campaign. The more I started to see the red flags of just poor judgment calls and tactics that are less than honest and, I mean, in my opinion, unethical in some ways. And so for me, seeing some of those things from my perspective, after the primary when he lost, and, people can argue whether Spencer got enough signatures and so forth, which is a whole other topic that we can talk about, because election integrity is very important. And I'm not even arguing if Spencer got the signatures or not. I think that is certainly up for debate, and there is a question there.
Yes.
But it's unfortunate because Lyman has harmed the effort for election integrity by some of the tactics he has used. Where if we could have approached it in a better, more diplomatic way, in my opinion, we could actually have made more headway with election integrity. So it's really frustrating when, he comes out and essentially supports the Democrat candidate for governor
Brian
because
King.
he's
Do you remember that Brian King commercial they
That's
did?
what I'm saying.
That was amazing.
I mean, to do a commercial with Brian King in the way that it was done, you either have to be a complete idiot or you have to be supporting the Democrat candidate, because in no way, shape, or form did Lyman look good in that video.
It didn't make
or the Republican Party
look good. Yes, we didn't look good. We didn't look strong. It looked very much like we were subservient to Democrats, and it was
very bad look.
It was a really bad look. And so I think that that might have been part of the reason that he lost that race for chair. It could be.
Yeah, there was probably multiple reasons. So yeah, here we have, failed governor's race. We have a failed chair race. Why not run for Congress? Why not?
Why not? Let's throw that out there. Well, one thing that I do think is interesting is that President Trump declined to endorse him in the governor's race. He ended up giving Governor Cox a soft endorsement. I know they had some things they had to work through there.
And I'll be clear, I have never supported Spencer Cox. So, by not supporting Phil doesn't mean that I've been rah-rah Spencer Cox either.
That is what everybody says, though. If you say, they like to say, if you don't support Phil, then you do support Spencer Cox, right?
Right.
And that's the same messaging they give with all of their election integrity stuff. Like, I really do think that they make some really solid points. There are some things that they are absolutely right on to question in terms of our election process.
We do have election issues.
We have important conversations that need to happen. But you have to be able to approach those conversations with integrity. It can't be, we have this one thing that's true and we're going to lump it in with all of this slop, and you've got to be able to sift through all of it to find it. So I do think that was interesting. Then we had the second race, Rob Axson race, where President Trump also declined to endorse him again and endorsed Rob Axson. And so I'm just going to go ahead and make a prediction here about how
Trump has already endorsed Celeste in her previous race.
In her previous race. But I'm going to just go ahead and say that in this congressional race, I can see President Trump also declining to endorse Phil for a third time and endorsing instead Celeste Malloy. And likely, I think he is probably right on that.
Yeah, I would just be so concerned with seeing a lot of the poor judgment calls, even at lower levels, to put someone like that on the congressional level. I would hate to see some of the poor judgment calls at that level.
Right.
And the impact that it would have on our district.
When you are representing the state of Utah, like the kind of extreme measures and tactics, particularly from the people in his inner circle as well, that it's not going to be a good look for Utah. And that is one of my biggest concerns about these maps, where you have new maps that are going to create 4 extreme districts, one incredibly extreme Democrat district that we may get, a Bernie Sanders endorsed candidate there. I'm not even going to say his name because I can't handle him. But and then you have 3 very Republican districts. And so the potential when you add that to SB 54 and both of the solid candidates running are gathering signatures in this race. Celeste and Phil both are.
They're both, yeah.
I think Phil came out first and said he was gathering signatures because Celeste in the past, she's been a convention-only candidate. And I have appreciated that she's like, hey, we're going to let the delegates decide this. So I think it's going to be an interesting race for sure.
Well, and Celeste has been in the trenches here she deeply understands the Northern Corridor, our public lands issues.
Yes.
She's an attorney. She understands those things that, I mean, yes, we don't always align 100% of the time. Who do you ever align 100% of the time with, right? Like, you have to go back to who is most qualified, who is going to actually represent and move our district in a positive direction. Because in my perspective, Phil has been a lot of smoke and no fire. You can have all of the right talking points and yell about election integrity because we deeply care about election integrity. Yes. He's able to hit those hot button issues that we deeply care about, but what has he actually accomplished? Right.
A lot of failed lawsuits.
Yes.
So I love that you brought up the Northern Corridor. It was so interesting at our Lincoln Day dinner watching Celeste stand up there and talk about, here's the progress we're making with the Northern Corridor. We're really excited about this. We've been really willing to work with the Trump administration on this. And you see that she's developed these relationships to get things done that need to happen here.
Yeah, I think she's chairing one of those committees.
Yeah, the Western Caucus.
Yeah.
I think she's the new chair of the Western Caucus. So I do love seeing that she is developing the relationships to get things done for Southern Utah. And I do think that makes her a really strong candidate.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, we have so many big, like our airport expansion right now.
Yes.
And we rely on federal funding to get things like the airport tower.
Right.
That deeply affects safety, right?
Yes.
And we rely on our people in Congress to help allocate those federal funds because they understand our needs here.
Right. Okay, well, we're probably out of time.
We could talk and talk and talk.
We could talk and talk and talk because that is what we do when we're all together. And it's been way too long since we have been together to talk about things. So I'll let you have the last word. What do you, on all of the races, convention, we have a lot of excitement coming up. What do you want to leave as your last word for maybe even for the delegates? Maybe give them some good advice. There's a lot of new delegates that we have here this year in Washington County.
Yeah, well, first of all, we know that the people who are delegates are the diehards of the party because we did not have a great turnout for caucus night. So those of us who actually showed up, we know are the most passionate people probably in the state here who do our homework. And so that's what I would say is just actually do a deep dive on these candidates and not just take at face value that, oh, you've heard so-and-so hit this hot button issue, therefore you're going to vote for them, or, this person's a rhino because you've heard this. It's like, throw that out the window and actually talk to these candidates and ask yourself, what have they actually done and accomplished, right? And so that would be my biggest ask for the delegates is to look at it objectively like that.
Yes, I like that. That's good. And we're both delegates, so we will be right alongside you asking the questions and hopefully hosting at least one debate, hopefully before convention, so that we can give everybody a good, solid look at possibly
You should get some of the candidates on your podcast.
Oh, we will do that too. We're going to get some candidates. I think Celeste said she wanted to come on the podcast,
awesome.
So we'll have to talk to some of the commission candidates as well. So tune in. We'll be having some more. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Michelle,
for having
Councilwoman
me.
Michelle Tanner. And we'll see y'all next time on PoliticIt Dixie.
See ya.
See ya.